Since 1951, this is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
Yes, indeed. And it is Friday. It's 8 o'clock, a little after. And it's time for Stan Pierchoski. How are you, brother?
Good morning, Jeff. I'm doing fine. How about you?
Very well. Very well, thank you. Good to see you.
You are right. This is The Legend.
The Legend.
And this is time for Bulletproof Estate Planning every Friday at 8 o'clock.
You know, I was thinking that, every morning during the morning, I always make fun of our little segments where I say, this is the education portion of our program. We're doing a word of the day or something like that. Mm-hmm. But this truly is an education.
Well, it's intended to be. That's correct.
This portion of the show, or the week, as we should say.
Speaking of which, I with your show earlier, I had a question for you. When I came in the radio station, when getting ready to do the show, I stopped in the kitchen, I opened up the refrigerator, and I wanted to ask you, did you bogart the yogurt?
No.
That's the only thing I could think of rhymed with the word of the day.
Bogart the yogurt.
Did you bogart all the yogurt?
You know what? If all there was yogurt to eat, I would be very healthy.
I would be a non-bogart.
I'm not going to be eating yogurt
there
that much. Anyway,
I thought that was interesting because that was a new word to me.
Bogart. Yeah, I've actually run across that before, way back when. All right.
But no, this is supposed to be educational. We like to talk about just about anything in this giant estate planning is a pretty big realm of topic.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things to talk about. And it's educational in several ways. I help, I answer questions when people come and pose them to me during the week and things that we deal with, as well as we like to open it up for conversation or questions or just experiences. If you want to call and tell me about something that happened, like with somebody else that you were familiar with or another family member, stuff like that, those real life experiences, then we'll connect them up with some of the facts that were going on and we'll see if we can make some sense out of what happened out of it. You can always call in on this show. That's what this show is supposed to be, interactive. Typical talk radio, right?
Yes, absolutely.
People call in. And the number to call in is 931-766-9393.
Yes, perfect.
Easy number to remember.
That's correct.
But yeah, call in, ask a question. It's not a problem. I actually encourage that because I love to answer them. Because again, I like to say questions tell me where folks are, what they're thinking. Get down to where the rubber meets the road. And I guarantee, if you call in with a question or an experience, there's others out there with the same one. Because being the person that hears a lot of them, I hear a lot of the same things over and over.
Sure.
And that gives me the opportunity to discuss those.
Sure, absolutely.
Especially for folks that it hadn't come up with yet, and when it does, maybe they'll have a little better understanding of what's actually going on.
Perfect.
Because a lot of things happen to people in this field, and it's usually negative, and they're not sure what exactly is behind it, what's causing it, why is it working out this way? Yeah, stuff like that. So,
yeah.
Anyway, we always start the week off with what's going on. We have a seminar this coming Saturday.
That's
so
right.
That'll be a week from not tomorrow. Now, when I say this coming, I guess that means tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow,
which is May the 18th. And it's going to be right here at the WLX radio station in the back of the building.
Yes.
And that's going to be at 10 o'clock on that Saturday.
Yes.
Will's Trust in the Nursing Home, we call it.
Yep.
And we try to start pretty promptly at 10. So sometimes if I see some folks still parking, we'll delay a minute or two, but it's really pretty close to 10 because the presentation is a good hour, maybe hour and 15 sometimes. It just depends on how sidetracked I get during the presentation. But it's all good information. We get a lot of good reviews on them. I think if you hadn't been to one, you might want to consider it because I think you'll learn something. And again, it is just, not like we're going to hit you with a sales pitch or make you sign something. I always have, every now and then have somebody, say, what's the catch? What are you going to do? What are you going to make us commit to something while you're there?
No.
We don't. As a matter of fact, I have recently got some phone calls about some folks that did attend what I used to call a trust mill, where some people come in from out of town, or they're located somewhere. The one I'm speaking of is located in some place in Kentucky, and they have a wide range of places that they go, and they host these seminars, and they talk about. And I had 2 or 3 people just in the last 2 weeks call me that had gone to this one. I think it was somewhere over towards Murfreesboro, but I forget.
Yeah.
But they could be over here because it's a traveling show. They kind of go from place to place.
Sure.
And they told me, all of them said they were really kind of nervous because it was high pressure. It was sign up for this and do this and sign up for this and get this. Kind of like late night TV where it says, where they have clocks start ticking down. It says sign up in the next 5 minutes or else it's going to cost 5 times as much. None of that. Don't do it. I do offer incentives for people that attend the webinar, because my logic is this: if you're going to take an hour or so out of your Saturday,
Sure.
to pre-educate yourself on what we have to say about this, and you haven't, then you obviously have an interest in estate planning to some extent. And if you want to go forward with something, I give a really good incentive, cost-wise, with that, as well as incentive as some of my time, plus the time at the seminar.
Sure.
And there's no pressure, because I have been known for people to come to me 3 years later and say, "Hey, I came to your seminar," and I said, "Oh yeah, when was that?" And they say, "It was 3 years ago."
Wow.
In 2019. I will still extend that to you. It's not it's not time. Do it today or all bets are off. If you don't, this has got to be something you want to do. If you don't want to do it, we won't do it. If you do want to do it, we'll do it. If you want to take your time thinking about it before you do it, I get that. I would think about it too. And I've always, the position I've always taken, when you see something where it says, okay, it costs this, but you got to make a decision today. Otherwise, it's twice as much if you don't make a decision today.
Yeah, that's a high pressure deal.
And I take the position, you know what? It's the same product or service.
Yeah.
There's no logic that it can cost more the
Right.
next day.
Right.
And I said, I've just never succumbed to that sort of pressure. And I just said, you know what, if that's the way you're pitching it, then I'll find the service somewhere else, because that's patently unfair to say it's worth half as much today. No, I'm not talking about running a sale. Sometimes people run sales or for a certain period of time or a couple of days. Those things are well announced ahead of time. They don't spring it on you right at the moment, which is what I'm talking about. So,
well, we've all been pitched, though. You may be going on vacation and people want to bring you into some kind of seminar where they show you these things and they want to sell you something. That's not what this is.
No.
That's not what this is.
This is real low key. Come if you want, don't come if you want. It's that simple. You can RSVP and change your mind, or you can RSVP and sometimes something comes up, they can't make it.
Yeah.
I actually have a recorded version of it that, it's by invitation. So if you can't make it to that, or it comes and goes and you call me and say, I couldn't make it, I get sick, call me and we'll send you something. You don't have to wait for the next one, because they're starting to get a little more spread out, the seminars.
And that phone number.
Yeah, my phone number is 931-363-7222, which is Pierchoski Estate Law, Pierchoski Elder Law. But think about the seminar if you want to come. We get good turnouts. We get good questions. And when you have a seminar like that, and at the end of it, we open it up for Q&A, and people ask questions, I can tell by the nature of the questions that the folks are thinking about this. They're tracking along. And many of them have heard what I had to say at the seminar, and it gets the wheels turning.
Oh, yeah.
It sparks a question or two. And I can tell by the way the questions that are asked that you are internally trying to connect the dots. And and that's very encouraging, because that's what the whole thing's about. Give you options, pitch your options. A lot of folks just don't know they have options. And if you don't know you have options, it's very difficult to make a decision. So that's what the whole thing's about. It give you a certain level of exposure to what's out there.
Sure.
It's not a law school lecture by any means. It is a legal topic, so we maybe get some of those words. I try to keep it straightforward, but not that deep of a dive into stuff. If you want to go forward with something, we'll do a little more of a deeper dive.
Right.
That sort of thing. So, just so you have an understanding of it, because if you say yes, this is what I want to do, I'm only interested in going forward with it if you feel like you have a good understanding of what it is and it's a good fit for you.
Sure.
So, and it works very well for my practice to do it that way, because there are some people that will just at the end of the day just say, no, I just don't know if that's a good fit. Yeah. And that's okay to come to that conclusion, because that is an informed decision.
Right. Exactly.
It's okay with me. I'm not going to try and talk you. I often say I'm not here to talk you into anything, and I'm not here to talk you out of anything. I'm going to show you what's available. If you think it's a good fit for your family dynamics, then go for it. If it's not, don't. Everybody's family dynamics are different. That is one thing about this area of the law that I really enjoy, is it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
In the general categories, you got a husband and wife that have some kids. Okay, that's pretty general category. But after that, it starts to get pretty diverse.
Yes.
Because all the personalities start entering into things. And then you bring in, spouses of kids and stuff that, people want to leave their property to their kids, but they want to make sure their spouses don't get a hold of it and stuff. There's all kinds of concerns, and there's solutions to all these problems. There's ways to do it. And so bring those with you. And we don't have to talk about it, but if you have a question you want to ask me and it's a little bit sensitive and you don't want to offer it with everybody there,
sure,
stick around and corral me off to the side toward, after everybody's done with the common questions, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it.
Absolutely.
Well, like I said, we won't get 100% into it, but we'll discuss I'll give you the ideas of what you can schedule a meeting and say, I'll give you the ideas of what we can talk about further at a meeting.
Yeah.
Solutions. So,
Well, we would certainly advise anybody that's listening to this program to call ahead and reserve your seat. And even if you can't call ahead and you show up, you still
yeah, that's
have room
fine.
for you.
That's fine. Here at WLX, we got a lot of room.
That's right.
Last time we had one here, we were challenging that room. So, by all means, hear what we have to say. I mean, it's
That's Saturday the 18th at 10 a.m. Right here behind the studios.
Yep.
Awesome. Good.
what we call the Country Cafe, which
Yeah.
don't plan on sticking around and having lunch. So
Yeah. No service at the cafe as far as food, but great information
yeah,
for you.
there's not even a sign that says that. So
No.
but
a little secret location, I guess.
so hey, listen. One thing I want to talk about. I like to pass these on. Is this week we received a TennCare approval, and it was one that really went through without much in the way of issues.
Yeah.
It was one that might have had an issue, or at least I had in the back of my mind that they might raise some concerns, but they did not. And I don't know if you might remember, if you listen to me regularly here on some of the other programs I do, you might have heard me talk about when you're getting eligible for TennCare, we like to get you eligible, but let you keep all your assets, right? And so there was we had a situation like this, but when you went, there's certain ways and methodologies or strategies we use so that you can keep all your assets.
Yes.
Right? Now, when you're married, one of those strategies is give it to the spouse.
Yes.
And now, if you remember, then when I say that, somebody will say, well, gee, Stan, don't you talk a lot about if you give something away, that's a problem? And the answer is yes. If you give something away, that can be a problem, but there are a couple of places you can give it where it doesn't create this penalty period. It doesn't cause problems. One is a spouse. So if you're married, you have that option. But if you're single or if you're married, the other option is if you have a disabled child. And that's a documented disability. So typically you're talking about SSI or SSDI. Personally, I think all my kids are disabled. There's just not a documented disability in one way or another.
Yes.
But that's what I'm talking about. Now, this case was such a case. We had a single person, had two children, one of them had a disability. And we had some, so when you do that, you can gift as much as you want to that child. And with no penalty, okay?
Okay.
And so, this estate was structured in such a way, we had some odd assets. We had something where we had the person was holding a note that it was a private note where somebody was paying on it over a term of years, and the payment structures and all that. So that was a stream of income, or depending on how TennCare could look at it, they could look at it as a resource. But either way, it was countable. And so we simply assigned the note, the stream of income, did an irrevocable assignment to the disabled child.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't happen real often. Because, when you talk about it, it's like selling your note to somebody like J.G. Wentworth. You hear where people, you can buy a note on the secondary market, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And those folks, that's when it comes to mind, J.G. Wentworth. If you got hit by a car and you're getting a settlement, they'll buy it from you. Now, they sometimes don't give you a good price for it, but nonetheless.
Deeply discounted.
So when we ran into this issue, we started looking into that. Actually, we started looking into it a couple of years ago when the first time this came up. But we found out that J.G. Gentworth, they immediately said, we don't buy private notes. I mean, just flat out the gate. We only do settlements coming out of insurance companies. So we looked now, and it's like, okay, we can't find anybody to buy this note. And we looked, there are some people that buy private notes, but it was for pennies on a dollar. It was pretty bad.
Yes.
And I get it. Business is business, right? But but then the more we looked into it, we just decided we were going to assign it to the disabled child because then we get to keep all of it. I mean, it doesn't affect the person that's paying. All their rights and obligations we're not allowed to disturb that in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. So they owe the same amount of money, pay at the same time, pay it the same way, the same place. Nothing changed, except who owned the note.
Right.
And that happens in real estate. You take out a mortgage
happens
with a mortgage company. A year later, you get a letter in the mail and say, hey, we're Z Mortgage Company. You now owe the mortgage to us because we bought them out.
People are very familiar with that.
Happens all the time. So this was the same thing, only on a private scale.
Yeah.
Now, that worked. And TennCare never raised any issues on that. I think I take that back. They did make a phone call and had just a couple of minor questions about that. So we explained what we did. That satisfied that. Because it is not that's not overly common. I mean, both,
Right, it's not.
Both the strategies of giving something to a disabled child is pretty well founded in the law,
Yes.
and assigning a note is.
Yes.
But assigning the note, if you sign it to somebody else,
Yeah.
it's a gift,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you would have signed it to the other child who wasn't disabled, or assigned it to a third-party person and not got paid for it, it would be a gift.
Yes.
And so that's what we were trying to avoid. So we assigned it to a disabled child, which you can gift to a disabled child, and the penalty period does not apply.
Okay.
And so that was great. Now, if you also remember this case, and there was another thing that we thought would be questioned, but when I say I think it's going to be questioned, I am prepared to explain it. And we try to explain it in the application as best we can. But sometimes I don't know that they really read it that much because they ask questions, and I often say, well, I'll be glad to explain that to you, but if you go to the application page 9, you'll see where it is there, but I'll be glad to go over it with you while we're on the phone. And that was, you might even remember this. We had let me just paint this picture so we get all the players. So you got the applicant, okay, the person applying for 10K.
Okay.
They got 2 children, and one's a daughter, one's a son, okay? So we got mom, daughter, son, okay? Daughter is disabled, okay?
Okay.
It satisfies all the documented disability stuff like that. So daughter's disabled. Now, within the last 5 years, because when they look, they scrutinize your last 5 years.
Right.
Within the last 5 years, she had given each child, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of a $5,000 gift.
Wow.
I can't remember the number, but $5,000 for something. I don't even remember what it was, but
Yeah.
Just wrote a check to each of them,
Yeah.
gave it to them. And just out of love and affection or something.
Sure.
But not really giving any thought to what might happen in the future. So
Right.
now we find out when we're applying, that was well within the 5 years. It was like 3 years before, maybe 2 years. So
Okay.
definitely, no doubt about it being in 5 years.
Yes.
Right? So we flag that as, okay, they're going to impose a penalty period on that. Okay. Now, not the $5,000 they gave the disabled child, because you don't have to wait till you apply to divest property to a disabled child. So
Yes.
that would have been considered a gift and no problem. Okay. But the one to the son would have been.
Wow.
Would have triggered a pretty small penalty period, a little less
Yeah.
than a month, but nonetheless, it was a penalty period. So that came up, and I was about ready to make the call and say, we're just going to have to live with that because, in other words, they'll approve, but they'll say you're in a penalty period for about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks is the way that would work out.
Sure.
I can't remember the number, but it was right around a month's worth of a penalty.
Yeah. Okay.
But, at $9,500 a month on the average, we're talking about some real money.
Right.
It's the penalty, well, in that case, would have been more than the gift. Because the penalty is usually based on the cost of care, but it's a low number.
Right.
And it was a couple of years ago where the penalty, they would use the penalty divisor from 2 or 3 years ago, which was
Yes.
lower yet.
Yeah.
And the cost of care now is much higher. So that's why these gifts can be such a problem. You get hammered on these things because in this case, the divisor for the penalty period was like $5,200, and then the cost of care was what it was at the time. Well, now
Right.
they're going to impose the penalty period the day of the gift, which was based on $5,200, but that's going to create a 1 month penalty period. But now the month we have to private pay for is now 2024, where the average cost is $9,000 to $9,500 a month.
Yeah.
So given these gifts, when you go back and use that number, it can really be disadvantageous.
Yeah.
So that's where I came in and I thought, okay, what about this gift? And I got thinking about it, got the wheels turning. Decided to bogart on some snacks while I was doing it. But I got thinking about it, and I came up with what I call a Tennessee two-step.
I like it.
Do you remember me talking about that?
I think so.
Okay, so we came up with the Tennessee two-step, and let me just play it out. First, we approached the son and said, "Can you give it back? Because you can always cure a gift, right?"
Yes.
And the answer was no. He already spent it, and he was of limited means, and so he couldn't. So we had determined that. So that's why I'm thinking about some other alternative. The first logic would have been to cure the gift and give it back.
Yes.
But when as it always is, or often is, when it's cash money, it's gone. It's not coming back.
Yes.
Now, if he could have, he certainly would have. But
Yes.
And that's maybe been why his gift was given in the first place. So,
Yes.
no big deal. So I thought, okay, how can we make this work? And here's how we made it work. So I called the Tennessee two-step.
I'm listening.
And I was actually hoping they would ask me about it because I wanted to explain it to them, but they never did. So it flew. It definitely went through, and it was like this. So he didn't have $5,000 to give back to cure, right?
Right.
So I approached the daughter, the disabled daughter, and she did have $5,000.
Yes.
And so she gave $5,000 to her brother, Okay, no problem there because they're both much younger. We're not worried about them going into care. You know what I mean? Because they're the kids, and she can gift money to anybody she wants anytime she wants, right? So she gave $5,000 to her brother.
Okay.
Now, the brother took the $5,000 and gave it back to mom.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
And that cures the
that
gift.
cures the gift. You're right on the money.
That cures the gift.
You're tracking perfectly.
I'm
Mr.
with
Jeff.
you.
That cured the gift.
Okay.
Now that's the Tennessee one step so far. Now when we get to the Tennessee student, now mom will give $5,000 to the daughter because she's a disabled child.
Yes.
That's the Tennessee two step. Now the end result is the son's not out any money. The daughter's in the exact same position she was in the first time because the $5,000 she gave to the son went to mom, and mom gifted it back to her as a disabled child, so she got her $5,000 back. End result was there was no penalty.
Ta-da! Tennessee
And there you
two-step.
have the Tennessee two-step.
Okay, I like it.
And when I break it down like that, that's when we broke it down in the application. I explained the authority of what we could do.
Yes.
I mean, we started with the son. We don't have to explain to him that the
Right.
daughter gave him $5,000, right? And if we did, I mean, they know exactly what we did.
Yeah.
As long as it follows the rules, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it did. And of course, they never even raised any issues on it, which I expected they didn't. I was kind of anxious to explain it to them because I thought it was pretty creative. But they acknowledged it and they did not impose a penalty period on that. And,
Wow.
And so this is how an understanding of the rules. I mean, sometimes when you read the rules, it's like, wow, they really got everything boxed in pretty tight.
Yeah.
Not really. If you know and understand the rules, you can use them to your advantage sometimes.
Yes.
And I think when they make the rules, they had those advantages in mind. It's not like we're coming up with something. It's not like we're exercising loopholes.
Yeah.
You know.
You've talked about this many times with me, and it is sometimes people feel like they're out of options, that they're trapped, that they've got in a mess, and then they're just going to lose everything. And I've heard you mention that there's always something that might be able to be done.
I think I can always come up. Let me put it this way. I think I can always come up with something. And so far, I have always come up with something. Now, sometimes when things are so bad,
Yeah.
it may not be an ideal result, but it's a better result than if we didn't do anything.
Not doing nothing.
But we
Yeah.
can come up with something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And you know, the service that you offer, I was looking at, you know, we do bulletproof estate planning here for this hour.
Mm-hmm.
With the estate plan stand, that's you. You are the man. But I've decided that you are the professor.
Okay.
The professor of
I like that.
of estate planning. How about that?
I like that. Yeah. That's a little more of the teaching role, right?
That's right.
Yeah, they're relating to you. Yeah.
That's right.
You know, I have several people. I do a show on Sunday night on the radio, and I had a caller one time that called in and said he was a regular listener,
Yeah.
and he's been listening for a while.
Yeah.
And he actually said on the show, he says, "You ought to teach this stuff." He said,
Yeah.
"I've never known anybody that could break this down and make it so understandable."
Yeah.
He said, "I just love to listen to you because of the way you explain stuff."
Well, that's what I was saying here. I've learned a lot listening to you, and every week it seems there's some little new nuance that comes about, and I've taken a lot home with me. There's a lot for us to think about. I do happen to have a trust set up, but it's made me want to review it, you
Gotcha.
know, and say make
Gotcha.
sring that we've got things like it should be, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. And I know you're just having some issues with some family members
Yeah,
recently, and
we got a
yeah.
family member that has that's approaching that age and actually beyond, really, where they very well could be
Sure.
have to have some extended care or that kind of thing. Right now, still at home, but that could change any day with our
yeah.
circumstance.
Yeah.
So,
And you know, those are things you kind of see that coming in a way.
Sure.
You don't know the exact timing, but you know it's coming.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of things out there that have no timing.
Sure.
Like a stroke that doesn't take you out. You know, a stroke where
Right.
you
Right.
you survive it, but you're incapacitated. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of my worst fears. You know, I feel very sound and confident in my deity, and loss of life concerns me, but doesn't really scare me. I feel scripturally sound along
Yes.
those lines. I mean, I think I can honestly say I think I could handle that.
your confidence, in other words, is in the right place.
But what worries me to death is something like a stroke. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about something that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. When I say come out of nowhere, you can do things for health that are heart healthy, that are
Oh, yeah.
stroke healthy, and stuff like that. And I do. But I mean, you know, you just hear stories of folks who just one day they're doing something, they're active as can be, and the next
Yes.
they are not. And that is just, That is so unfair.
Yeah.
That is just a rotten thing to happen to somebody.
If you were listening to us earlier on your way in, you may have heard that Teresa and I went with some friends to Huntsville last night, and went to the Marshall Tucker Band concert. Okay,
I didn't catch that
Well,
part. But
the lead singer there told us that he was 79 years old now.
Oh, wow.
Okay, they've been doing it for 50 years.
Yep.
Well, that they were big when I was in high school, so all the audience was there my age and older, and so it really makes you think about your time in life and where you are, and the planning that you should do if you haven't done it already.
No, I agree. I mean, not just because I'm in the business of that. That's sort of what got me in the business of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everybody should do something. Just do something. Yeah. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for the people you love, because they're the ones that have to deal with your problems.
Absolutely.
Even problems at death. I mean, they're the ones that deal with your probate estate and all the nonsense that comes with that.
Yeah, I've had people ask me that listen to us here and have heard you and me talking, you on this portion, and they've asked me about you. And I've said, yeah, absolutely. You need to go to that seminar, or you need to make an appointment. You absolutely need to do this.
And that's why I do the seminars, and that's why I recommend the seminars. It's a low-profile way to get introduced to it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, the legal industry has a horrible reputation.
No kidding.
I mean, I try so hard not to add to that.
Don't add to it.
But a horrible reputation. So people who go to a lawyer's office for an appointment, I don't blame them if they feel intimidated or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You see me, I don't wear a three-piece suit. I'm about as close to a real guy as I can make myself.
Sure.
My office is not intimidating surroundings. I say over and over, if you want to talk to me, we'll talk. If you want to do something, we'll do something. If you don't, we'll still part friends. I mean, It's no big deal. But to come to an attorney's office and have a meeting, there's going to be an intimidation.
Yeah, it can be, sure.
And so, and that's just the nature of the industry.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with. But nonetheless, so I think a good way to start for people is you come to this seminar, okay? Yeah. Again, it's in a big auditorium with a bunch of other people that are in the same boat. I'm the only one there. I'm the attorney there. Of course, a couple of my staff are with me. But other than that, all I can say is I promise you, I'm not going to bombard you with a sales pitch. I mean, we do this for a living.
Sure.
And if you decide to do it, it's my hope that you would engage with me to do it. Right. But, I'm not going to, we don't talk about that. I do offer, I like I said, offer incentives to people who spend the time to educate themselves.
Right.
And here's the main reason I do it. It's not so much because it's, to them it's an incentive, and any help in price is helpful, right?
Sure.
But here's the main reason why I do it. One of the incentives I offer, if you want to talk to me, everything starts with what we call a family vision meeting. And those things are typically up to 2 hours long.
Okay.
They're rarely less than an hour and a half. This is when we get into a deep dive of your family dynamics, what problems we're trying to fix, what estate planning tool works for you. Is it a last will and testament? Is it the revocable living trust? Is it the asset protection trust? What do we need a special needs trust for a special needs child? This is where we get down to where the rubber meets the road, right? And if you pre-educate yourself by coming to a seminar or going and watching the recorded version of it, okay? That makes that meeting so much more meaningful, because we're not coming in and say, well, what's the difference between a will and a trust? And the fundamental questions.
Yes.
We've already been exposed to that. We've already talked about that at the seminar.
Right.
Now you've graduated past that, and now you're hearing what the options are. And I guarantee at the end of the seminar, one of the options has got your attention.
Yes.
Whatever they are. And so when you come into that meeting, then that's what we talk about. And we go through it. So then I get in deeper than I do at the seminar, because like our asset protection trust is a perfect example.
Yeah.
That is a trust that will protect you from your creditors and protect you from the high cost of long-term care.
Yeah.
But there are certain concessions we have to make for that to work.
Right.
It's not for free. I don't mean money-wise. I'm saying you got to give something up.
Sure.
And you hear me talk about it. You have access to property and you have control of property. We're going to give up access to property, which sounds worse than it really is, but I mean, we have to do that to get creditor protection.
Yeah.
And so we will get into that, because I will say, look, if this is the way you want to go, I want to make perfectly sure that you understand how it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you're getting into. And I have a big old whiteboard, and I draw it out.
Yeah.
And we talk about it, and it's typically take a full 2 hours to go over. I mean, again, and I offer that time at no cost. One of the incentives I offer is that 2 hour time at no cost.
Yeah.
But I kind of don't do it so your price is lower. I do it so that meeting is meaningful.
Yes.
Because if I have to go over what I went over in the seminar, We're going to wait. We're going to waste time.
Well, when they come to that meeting with you, the family planning meetings, if it's so much better if they have had some exposure and now they're armed with information.
Absolutely, and that's the goal.
That's right.
Because I'll say at the seminar, if you want to come into my office and get 2 hours of my time cold, we call it cold, with no exposure to anything, you will not get past the girls in the front without paying for my time. I mean, my time is so structured.
Yeah.
Every hour of every day. I mean, sometimes I have to pull the calendar up or say, do I have something at 3? And they'll say yes. And
yes.
I tell them, or whatever. Or if a meeting's running too long, I'll get a reminder that, we're running a little late. And so they structure my time, and they guard my time very jealously.
You probably know this quote from Abraham Lincoln about the lawyer's time.
I might remember it, but go ahead.
I can't remember exactly, but a lawyer's time is his trade. Is basically
That's
what
true.
it's saying.
Stock and trade is your knowledge and your time. Yeah.
A lawyer's time is what he has to offer advice in that time.
Gotcha.
And that kind of thing. So I forget the exact quote, but it was an Abraham Lincoln quote.
Oh, okay. Well, like if somebody says, "What's your stock in trade?"
Yeah.
Mine is my time, like you say, but also my knowledge, my ability to do what we do.
Right.
And that's not exactly tangible.
Yeah.
But it is a service, and it is something. That knowledge is good. So, and again, like I said, so I give that at no cost if you will pre-educate yourself. That's the only prerequisite. Okay?
Yeah.
And so, and it works. We've been doing it that way for years, and so it works very good for me on my end.
Yes.
It works very good for you on a potential client end because we get right to it. We get right to it. We don't waste any time. This is a very productive 2 hours when we get into that. So it works, and we're going to keep doing it that way. And there's other ways where I offer my time. With Abraham's Lincoln quote, I agree with that to a certain extent.
Sure.
And that is when people want to say, I want to call and talk to you, but how much are you going to charge me to talk to me? I don't.
Right.
I had somebody just the other day who actually was an out-of-state attorney dealing with their family and said, they said, we want to talk about this, this, and this. And we set up an appointment. She goes, what do you charge? Then they said, what do you charge for a consultation? And I said, I don't.
Yeah.
And there was this long pause on the other end of the phone. And it was kind of like, okay. And it was kind of like, well, I don't understand why you're an attorney and you're not charging for your time.
Yeah.
I don't charge for consultations because of this. I don't know if during that consultation I'm going to give you any information that's going to be helpful. I might. I mean, I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, really.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm going to be getting
There's
into.
a certain amount of discovery in both ways.
I got to figure out what we're doing.
Right.
Suppose you tell me, you come in, if I charge for my time, suppose you come in and say, man, I was out with my wife and had a few too many drinks, and as we were pulling out down the road, got pulled over, and they made me blow in the breath. I'm going to say, I can't help you. I don't do criminal defense anymore. That's a DUI, and I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But by the way, you owe me so much for the 15 minutes it took to talk about that. I don't.
Mistake number 2.
I cannot. Well, that's one way to look at it. I don't get that, and I don't do that. I mean, I'm just, like I said, a regular guy. I mean, I will charge when I do something for you.
Yeah.
Something that's in your best interest.
Right.
And if we want to talk about what you want to do, like this trust, if you hire me to do your trust, there's going to be a fee.
Sure, absolutely.
But leading up to it, I just don't feel comfortable doing it. Now, am I shooting myself in the foot? And do other attorneys say you're crazy for not charging for that time? Yes, they can say that. They're free to say it. I'm allowed to practice govern my office the way I want to. That's the way I want to do it. You know why? I feel better about doing it.
Yeah.
I feel better about doing it.
And just about any station in life, wherever you are, I should say, in level of possessions and ownership, you need to consider coming to one of these seminars and getting information about whether or not this is right for you.
Exactly. That's what it's for. It's designed for you.
That is, no matter how small your possessions you may think they are, they're your possessions, and you want to protect those things, right? Your possessions, your assets, your money, all those things that you've worked, however many years to accumulate.
A lifetime.
Can be eaten up so fast, and we've seen it happen. I know you have.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I even said it last week. I said, and because you have wealth, and of course you want your wealth to be used for your retirement years, so you enjoy life. But many people also want to pass it on to what we call a subsequent generation,
Absolutely.
a wealth transfer to the next generation, which is
Right.
leaving it to your kids,
Right.
In our terms, and But that does presuppose you have it at death to leave to them.
That's right.
And there could be an intervening force during your life, i.e. a creditor, i.e. long-term care, that has the potential of taking a portion, if not all of that wealth, before it ever gets to the point of a testamentary action where it goes to them after death.
Yes.
At death, you can't give what you don't have.
Right.
I don't care what your will says.
Right.
If I leave to Jeff Hood my neighbor's car,
that ain't going to work.
It's not going to work because it's not mine to give.
It would be fun to try.
I could put it in a will, but it's just not going to get there. That'd be malpractice, I'm sure. But the theory is, a lot of people would put something like, I leave you my house or the 10 acres down the street. Yeah. But if you don't have it, if that gets consumed for some reason, or even if you just plain sell it and don't have it anymore, you can't give what you don't have to give.
I think I'll leave my children the new Titan Stadium up in Nashville.
Hire another attorney to do that if you don't mind. But yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
That's an idea that would catch on fast.
It would, wouldn't it?
But and so that's the word planning. I mean, we got to think ahead of this stuff.
Yes. Got
to be concerned. The reason long-term care is such an issue.
Yeah.
And you look, we are living longer these days because of medical advances. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Go back 100 years. People passed away, and you read your scriptures. How long are you supposed to live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're, I know you have a lot of a deity, and you're very scripturally sound. How many years did God say, if you follow my laws and you follow my rules, how many years will He give you for? Now you can have more, but how many will does He guarantee you'll get if you follow His health laws?
I don't know. You tell me.
72.
72 years.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. And now, but you can have more.
But you can have more.
But if you follow those health laws, you're guaranteed that according to the Scripture. Okay. So if something happens to you early, it's probably a health issue that I'm not going to get into the health laws in the Bible, but there's a boatload of them.
Yeah.
So, but now we're living longer. And years ago, I don't know what the average lifetime was, but you didn't see a lot of 90s and 100s, or late 80s. I don't think, not as much. But now, as people, we have more diseases and stuff. It seems like, but
sure.
We have a lot of activity in the medical fields that cure some of the things. Diabetes. A lot of people didn't survive diabetes for a long time. Now you can survive it for a long time.
Yeah.
With proper treatment and stuff
sure.
like that. Others, all kind of stuff. I'm not the medical person, but and it's not me saying this. I've seen statistics that say men and women are living longer.
Right.
Now, if we're living longer, it doesn't necessarily mean we're able to do all the activities of daily living longer. We're just alive longer. So what that does opens the door for more and more people to require some kind of long-term care.
Correct.
And so. It's different now than it was 50 years ago, or 100 years ago, or I'd say even 25 years ago. To be honest with you, because medical advances seem to have been rampant in just
sure.
the last 10 to 15 years.
Sure.
And they'll probably continue to be that way. So it's a real thing to plan for, even if you're healthy and you don't think I don't see any reason why I should worry about going to the nursing home. Well, it's still something you ought to plan for because you will you will get old.
Trust me, I saw examples of that last night. A whole stadium full, a whole concert hall full of us getting older.
I remember something my dad said. My dad had a way with words, and
yes.
Usually it was a lot of profanity involved. But for the most part, he had a way with words.
Yeah.
And I had a paper out, and there was one guy on the paper out. He was just ornery. He gave me nothing but trouble. He'd sit out, and if the paper wasn't in not the exact spot, he'd call the guy that runs the paper. He'd never complain to me. He'd always call that, and then he'd yell at me. Or if I didn't stick it between the storm door and the door, and if it got any moisture on it, he was all. But anyway, he was just always ragging on me.
Yeah.
And I was ragging about it one time at the house, and I said something like, I said, he's just a stupid old man.
Stupid old man. Okay.
And I was really ragging on him. And my dad looked at me and he said, you know what? He said, let me tell you something. You may not become stupid. He said, but you will get old.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always remembered that. And here I are.
And here we are.
He's right. So,
yes.
If you think, nothing's going to happen, it's worth planning for because we will, that is an absolute surety. We will grow older.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite words, by the way. Yeah. I'm always doing a word of the day.
What's that?
Stupid.
Well, What's one good thing? What is the best thing
I
about
use it a lot when I'm, out and about,
I hear you. And, when you think about that, it sounds like a derogatory, negative term, right? What is the one, I can think of one really good thing about stupid or the concept of stupidity. What do you think is the one saving grace of stupidity?
Gosh, I don't know what.
It can certainly be temporary.
It can be temporary.
You can cure stupidity.
You can cure stupidity.
You can become educated.
Yeah. Well, you hope. You hope you can.
I mean, you don't have to stay that way.
Right. Well, there's a difference in being ignorant of something.
Oh yeah.
And being stupid.
Not knowing.
Yes.
I mean, stupidity, I think, falls in the category.
To be ignorant of something, you just don't know. You just don't have the information. But when you have the information and you're not smart enough to do something with it, then that's stupid.
Yeah. Or do something in contradistinction to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
And
so there we go.
Yeah, but
a lesson in that.
Of course, and that is an opinion.
Yeah, an opinion.
But yeah. So anyway, we digress. So anyway, it's a red letter day. I think that was Tuesday this week that approval came in, and I get to call the person and tell them because we filed the application. To give you an idea how this works, we filed their application January the 12th.
Okay.
And we got the approval on 3 days ago on Tuesday, which I think is the
wow.
4th. I don't know what it was, the 8th, 9th, or something like that.
Okay.
No, what would it be? What's today? The 10th?
Today is the 10th. Yes. So
7th. It would have been the 7th.
Okay. Yeah.
So that came in on the 7th of May. So we're pushing 4 months.
So it takes 4 months
to get the approval.
Average, maybe.
Now, here's while we're on this subject, and let's just cover this because here's how that worked.
Okay.
We filed the application January 12th, right?
Okay.
And the bill is $9,000 a month, right?
Yes.
Well, once we file the application on January 12th, we create a status. It's called the TennCare application pending status.
Yes.
What that means now is the facility she's in, because it was a nursing home, the facility she's in must treat her as if she has already been approved.
Okay.
Now, when
you
get approved, all she has to pay is what's called her patient liability, which in her case would have been her income.
Okay.
And her income was much lower because we assigned that stream of income to her daughter, right?
Right.
But anyway, and her income was, I don't know, I can't remember, let's say it's $2,000. Okay.
Okay.
So going forward now for January and for February and for March and for April, she only had to pay her, we call it an estimated patient liability because it won't actually be her liability until TennCare when they give the approval, they determine what it is. But we just do the same equation.
Right.
And we say this is your estimated patient liability. And so they pay the facility all the income, the $2,000 a month.
Yes.
And so the nursing home literally doesn't get paid anything more during the pending process. Okay, now, and don't worry, that's not an unfair thing to them.
So would they collect that $2,000 each month?
I'm walking through that.
Okay.
You will pay that. You're required to pay the patient liability.
Okay.
Because if you get approved, that's what you're going to pay forevermore.
Yes.
Okay. Because your income always goes to the cost of care.
Right.
There's some income we can take out to pay our Medicare and a $50 and the personal needs allowance, stuff like that. But basically, all your income goes to the cost of care. Okay?
Yes.
Now, so you're always going to pay that. So we're required to pay that in this pending status. So now it takes them 4 months to approve. Okay. Now, don't panic. It's not unfair to the nursing home that they're not getting paid for these 4 months. Okay. When I get to the end of the explanation, you'll see why.
Yes.
May be inconvenient for them, but it's not a disadvantage.
Yes.
Because when you decide you're going to take Medicaid patients, I mean, you take all the laws that go with it.
That's right.
And what these laws are, you have to treat them like they've been approved.
Yeah.
So TennCare takes a while to get to the application, right? And eventually they get to it and they sign a caseworker. And the caseworker does what they do. They look at it, they read it. They sometimes call or send out an information request and say, can you send me this? Can you send me that? Whatever. That's the procedure. Now they finally approve. Okay, so May the 7th, they finally issue an approval letter. It says you are approved for nursing home care.
Yeah.
And it says you are approved January 12th, 2024, ongoing. Now what that means is they have to take the position that if we filed the application June 12th,
yes,
and they just kind of didn't get around to approving it until May 7th,
yes,
and if they say you're approved,
okay,
what they're saying is then you were approved when you filed it because what we're saying is approved is what you filed January the 12th.
Right.
So if we'd have dropped everything and looked at it the moment it came in on the fax,
yeah,
and we would have approved because that's what they're doing right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So because of that, I mean, you kind of got to get that weird concept.
Sure.
Wrap your head around that.
Sure.
So because of that, they say you are approved January 12th, 2024 ongoing. So they're going to go back to January 12th, the day we filed the application,
Yep.
and pay the nursing home the balance, basically,
Perfect.
whatever that works out to be. And so they're going to pay them for that the partial January. Because up to the 12th, she's in a private pay mode or
Yeah.
maybe in that Medicare window. But anyway, and they're going to pay for all of February, all of March, all of April, and 7 days into May.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're going to pay for all of May, and she's approved. So they're going to pay all of May and every month thereafter as long as she's in the facility.
Right.
They're going to pay the balance. But she's always going to, then later in the same approval, they're going to say your patient liability is, and I said the example is $2,000 we were using. We use the same equation, so we don't like to just take a wild guess at what it's supposed to be. And I don't even know how the discrepancy is there, but our calculations and theirs, our calculation of what we were paying was 89 cents more than what they said to do.
Yeah. How about that?
So close enough.
Close enough.
It's not even worth finding out what the discrepancy was, but it was in our favor anyway.
Yeah.
So that's what they've been paying, and that's how that works. I mean, the approval process is weird. It's cumbersome, and not much we can do about it.
Right.
But that's how it works. So with that scenario, you can see where if somebody's actually private paying prior to January the 12th, we're private paying. We want to hustle and get that application filed. Now, could we file it with that stream of income she had with that note? Well, we could have filed it, but they would have denied it. She was over-resourced. There's just no. I mean, why file an application when you know there's a 100% chance they're going to deny it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you get somebody doing that, I mean, that's malpractice.
Yeah.
Sue them, and then you really don't have to go pay for the nursing home, right? But so it's stupid.
It's stupid.
Well, I mean, it's to no avail. Yeah. So what we do is we adjust that income, we assign it. Now she no longer has it. Now we file the application because we're within what she's supposed to have.
Right.
And so when they look at it, they see that.
Sure.
And they ask a question or two, and then they approve.
Yeah.
So we know how it works.
Yeah.
It doesn't, if somebody's private paying up to the 12th of January, there's a real time factor
Right.
to do that. But sometimes it takes time to get there.
Yeah.
Because if you have a lot of assets with insurance companies, like say you got 2 or 3 different insurance policies that have a $5,000 cash surrender value.
Yeah.
TennCare considers that surrender value available for the cost of care. Wow. So we got to call them and we got to cash out the insurance policy and then do something with the $5,000 or the $15,000 for all 3 of them, right? But we can't do anything with it until we get the money.
Right.
But try hurrying up an insurance company and getting a check out of them. Okay?
That's not going to happen.
I mean, there's hoops to jump through, and they hold you to them, and it takes weeks.
Yes.
Even if you're diligently trying,
yes,
it takes weeks. So the sooner, I think I talked one whole show about if we can do all this while you're in your 100 days of Medicare, that's a big advantage because we're not bleeding to death financially, private paying. So we always want to hurry that up because that's a red letter time when we file that application because that TennCare application pending status is very important. Now let's look at another scenario that may, listeners that are pretty smart may have thought have.
Sure.
Suppose at the end of the day, I've not had this happen yet, and I don't think I will, but we're still got batting 1,000. Suppose maybe it's a do-it-yourself application, okay? You get to say everything's the same with a do-it-yourself app, but suppose here on May 7th they say we disapprove, we deny because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
Now, think of the nursing home's position. They've not been paid for these 4 months.
Oh wow.
And TennCare is not going to pay it. Wow. What they can do now is the responsibility now falls immediately on the applicant. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so now they can come out. Now, if you don't pay them, they have all their remedies at law to sue. They can certainly discharge, involuntarily discharge because you're not paying.
Yeah.
Okay? Now it falls on you. That's why doing a do-it-yourself application is a problem because your only remedy when they deny is to appeal. And when you appeal, if you appeal it right, it extends that status pending where they still have to treat them that way until the appeal's resolved.
Okay.
But I mean, so that's why I say don't feel bad for the nursing home. I mean, their payment's getting deferred, but they're going to get it.
Yes.
They're either going to get it from TennCare if it's approved, or they're going to get it from the individual if it's denied.
Yeah.
And again, they may have to sue them and stuff like that, but nonetheless, they have legal remedies. They're entitled. I mean, let me back up. They're entitled to be paid for that 4 months. Make no mistake about it.
Sure.
This whole procedure, Now, if you say, I'm not applying for TennCare, I'm just going to private pay. Well, then you just write a check every month for whatever the full bill.
Yeah.
And you use your income and then balance of it out of your savings account or whatever other asset you have to pay it. So it's really kind of the same. In the end, on a TennCare case, it's the same. They end up with paid for everything.
Sure.
And they're going to continue to be paid for everything.
Sure.
It's just coming from a different place. But they're getting paid. Now, it's like, well, they shouldn't have to wait 4 months to get their money. I often get that from them.
Yeah.
And I have to remind them and say, look, I get it. I understand you're nervous. What if it gets denied? First of all, mine don't.
Sure.
Second, I mean, if they do, we appeal and then they get approved.
Sure.
But I'm saying, that's possible. But when you say you're going to take Medicaid patients, you kind of get everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
Because the state of Tennessee is going to do the paying.
And they know the game.
And they're saying these are the rules if you're going to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
And
they know the rules.
and there are some places that flat out say we don't like to do that or we don't take TennCare, but not many. They're far and few between. But and sometimes they say it when they really do the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then things get complicated because if somebody goes into a private pay facility and they're private paying, let's just say they run out of money. If they apply for TennCare, they can't get kicked out. They cannot kick them out, even though they said in the beginning, we don't take TennCare. If they let it get to the point where the guy's exhausted everything
Yeah.
and then applies for TennCare, now there's an absolute prohibition for them to remove him.
Yeah.
I mean, they can kick him out if he's a troublemaker. They can always kick, but they have to find another facility. They have to place him somewhere else. They can't just say, come get him and take him home.
Yeah.
He's got to stay in care. So,
Wow.
so there's an understanding the rules is necessary.
Wow.
It really
And there's
is.
a lot of them.
There is a lot of them. And sometimes they just leave them open to their interpretation. And you have to know them well enough to call them on their interpretation. Your interpretation is not right, and here's why.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to court sometimes. It's an administrative court. It's a pretty low-level court. But that's your remedy.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, do it.
Yeah.
You can do it on your own.
Awesome.
There's no prohibition. I don't recommend it because you got to have this background. Unfortunately, you got to have this background. So, hey, listen, that went pretty fast today.
Listen, and just remind folks again to call your office, 363-7222, and let Stan know that you're coming on the 18th.
We'd like a head count. And if you want
Yeah.
to bring like an adult child or another
Yeah.
person or a
Yeah.
friend, bring them. Just give us a head count because when we get there a little early, we set up your tables and chairs and we rearrange them. And we like to, if I think 40 people are coming, we'll set up for 50, or
Yeah.
some just in case. And we always have walk-ins.
Yeah,
And we always
absolutely.
have no-shows or cancellations. So
Right.
it kind of washes out, okay. But if you decide you want to come and it's Saturday morning at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you say to your wife, you know what I was going to do today, I can't do, it's raining or whatever.
Yeah.
You want to go to that seminar?
Yeah.
It's okay. Come in. It's not that structured of a RSVP. So
Saturday the 18th, right here at the studio, the Country Cafe, right behind the studios here. Not hard to find at all. Stan Pierchoski, everybody. Pierchoski State.
yeah, and I've got your clock figured out, and
Have you got it
we
figured
got
out?
30 seconds
Yeah.
until. So no, I'm not going to run long this time because of that. So call my office 363-7222 at Pierchoski Estate Law, Pierchoski Elder Law.
Yeah.
Schedule a phone call with me, ask me questions, or just come and see me and talk. That's what we do.
Fantastic.
And listen to me here every Friday morning at
Every
8 to
Friday
9,
morning.
Bulletproof Estate Planning with your host, Estate Plan Stan, or the professor.
The professor, that's right. See you next time, buddy.
Always a pleasure, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Former President Trump's back in a New York City courtroom for his criminal hush money trial, stopping to talk to reporters.
This case is highly unconstitutional. It's